ruins were silent except for the sound of buzzing flies. Broken walls leaned against each other like tired old men, and the air smelled of dust and death. In the middle of that wreck stood a woman lying against a cracked stone. Her body was thin, her skin dry, and her lips broken. She was a widow. Once proud, now nothing more than a forgotten shadow. Her people had left her here. After the war ended, widows were seen as useless, a burden. No husband, no family, no protection, no worth. They did not give her food. They did not give her water. They walked away while she begged for one more chance to live. Now she sat, her head falling forward, her eyes half closed. She could feel the flies land on her skin, crawl over her arms, settle on her lips. But she was too weak to lift her hand and push them away. She whispered, "Let me go. Take me, dust. Take me, wind." The sun burned above, merciless. Her throat was dry as stone. She had not eaten in many days. She thought she might fall asleep and never wake again. Perhaps that was better. At least pain would end, yet her heart still beat. And with every slow beat she remembered her husband's face. He had died in the war, brave and strong, trying to defend their home. She remembered his voice telling her once, "Do not give up. Even when the world spits on you, breathe. Keep breathing." But breathing was hard now. Even that took strength. Suddenly she heard something. A sound that did not belong to the ruins. Heavy steps, not like the soft steps of scavenger rats, but firm, echoing closer and closer. Her eyes widened. Fear. Was it a beast? Was it a soldier? Her people sometimes sent patrols to finish off the weak. Maybe they had come to throw her body outside the ruins for the vultures. She tried to move, but her legs would not obey. Her body was too light, too empty. She shut her eyes tight, waiting. If death was coming, let it come fast. The steps stopped. A shadow covered her face. For a long moment there was silence. She thought she could feel eyes watching her. Then a voice spoke. It was not the voice of her people. It was deeper, strange, with a rough accent, words she knew but spoken differently. "Are you alive?" Her eyes opened slowly. She saw a figure kneeling in front of her. A man. His skin was different, his clothes strange, a human. She had heard stories about them. Outsiders, fighters, dangerous, but also full of strange mercy. The man looked at her with shock. His eyes were sharp but not cruel. He studied her face, the flies crawling on her, the thin bones beneath her skin. He reached into his pack. She thought he might take out a weapon. She tried to whisper, "End it quickly," but her voice broke, nothing more than air. Instead of a weapon, the man pulled out something small, a packet, a ration, food. He opened it and the smell made her heart twist. Real food, her eyes filled with tears. She could not believe it. Why would he waste his food on her? She was nothing. Not even her own people had given her a crumb. The man spoke again, gently this time. "Eat," slowly. He stretched out his hand, holding the food toward her. She stared at it. Her stomach screamed, but her pride whispered, "You are a burden. Do not take it." Her hand shook as she lifted it, weak and uncertain. The moment stretched long, like the ruins were holding their breath. Would she take the food and live? Or let her pride and despair finish the work hunger had started? The flies buzzed louder around her face, as if mocking her. The human waited, still, patient. His eyes did not leave hers, and in that terrible silence between life and death, the forgotten woman faced her choice. The woman's thin hand hovered over the food. Her fingers trembled as if the packet were fire. She wanted it more than anything, but shame burned inside her. Why should a stranger give her what her own people denied? Why should a human, a creature she had been taught to fear, show her kindness? The human soldier did not pull his hand back. He only waited, crouched in the dust, his shadow shielding her from the harsh sun. His face was tired, the face of a man who had walked too far, fought too long. Yet his eyes held something rare, patience. At last her pride cracked. Hunger won. She reached out weakly and touched the packet. The soldier helped steady her hand so the food would not fall. She looked at him once more, searching for mockery or cruelty, but found none. Her lips parted. She took a small bite. The taste was simple, dry, but to her starved body it was sweeter than honey. A sound escaped her throat, half sob, half gasp. She chewed slowly, tears running down her dirty cheeks. The human nodded. Good, slow, more. She obeyed, taking another bite, then another. Each one was a battle. Her body wanted to swallow it all at once, but her weakness forced her to eat gently. The soldier watched her closely, his hand ready to catch her if she collapsed. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, warmth spread in her chest. She was not full, not yet, but the terrible emptiness inside her felt less like a tomb. The food filled her with something more than life. It filled her with hope. Then, a low growl echoed through the ruins. The woman froze. Her eyes darted to the shadows between broken walls. The soldier's head snapped up. He knew that sound. Not human, not her kind. Something wild, something hungry. The smell of food had drawn scavengers. Her heart raced. Her people had abandoned her, but the beasts had not. They always came for the weak, waiting for the last breath before they tore flesh from bone. The soldier stood, moving in front of her. He slung his pack back onto his shoulders and pulled a weapon from his side. A rifle, scarred, scratched, but still deadly. The woman's body shook. She whispered, "Go. Go, leave me. I will only slow you down." The human ignored her. His eyes scanned the shadows, searching. His finger rested on the trigger, calm, steady. "Quiet," he whispered back. Her chest tightened. Why would he protect her? A stranger, an alien? Another growl. Louder this time. Answered her question with terror. Yellow eyes blinked in the dark. One pair, then two, then five. The beasts crept closer, their bodies low, their teeth flashing. They were half-wolf, half-reptile creatures born of war's ruins. Flies buzzed louder as if fleeing what was to come. The soldier raised his weapon. He did not look back at her. He did not need to. His voice was calm but iron-hard. "Stay behind me." The woman's breath came fast. She wanted to scream, to beg him to run, but no words left her mouth. She only gripped the empty food packet in her hand as if it were a charm against death. The beasts snarled, circling. Dust rose as their claws scraped stone. Then the soldier fired. The crack of his rifle shattered the silence, echoed through the ruins like thunder. One beast yelped, collapsed, dust staining its scales. The others leapt forward, furious. The woman pressed herself against the stone, heart pounding like a drum. The human moved with sharp precision, firing, reloading, stepping, never letting the beast close the gap. For every snarl he answered with fire, but there were too many. Their eyes glowed, their teeth dripped. The soldier's weapon clicked empty. The woman gasped. He had no more rounds. The largest beast lunged, and then the human roared, grabbing a broken metal rod from the ground. He swung with all his strength, striking the beast mid-air. It crashed into the dirt, whining but not dead. Another closed in, teeth snapping. The widow's breath caught. She had begged him to leave her, but he stayed. He stayed to fight for her life when no one else had. Her weak hand lifted, gripping a small stone. Useless, she knew, but it was all she had. If he fought for her, she would not watch silently. The battle raged in the ruins. Man against beasts, life against death, and in the middle of it all, one starving widow realized this human was no ordinary stranger. He was her only shield against the night. The ruins stank of blood and smoke. The beasts were gone now, their bodies lying still in the dust. Flies swarmed over them, but the human stood tall, breathing hard, his weapon hanging loose in one hand, the broken metal rod in the other. Sweat rolled down his face, and his chest rose and fell with each deep breath. Behind him, the widow sat frozen. She could not believe what she had just seen. No one had ever fought for her. Not her people, not her neighbors, not even her own kin. But this stranger, this human, had stood between her and death, spilling his strength like it meant nothing. Her lips trembled as she tried to speak. At first no sound came, then finally a whisper. "Why?" The man turned his head slightly. His sharp eyes softened when they landed on her. "Because you're still alive." She felt those words sink into her bones. Still alive. For weeks she had thought of herself as half-dead, forgotten, worthless. Yet here he was, reminding her of something she had almost let go of. Life. The human crouched down, setting the weapon aside. From his pack he pulled a canteen. He opened it and offered it to her. "Drink." Her fingers shook as she took it. The water inside was warm and tasted of metal, but it slid down her throat like the sweetest gift in the universe. She coughed, spilled some, then drank again. Her body screamed for more, but she forced herself to stop when he gently took the canteen back. "You'll make yourself sick if you rush," he said. His tone was calm, almost fatherly. Her chest ached. No one had spoken to her with such care since her husband died. The human handed her another small packet of food, though he had so little left. She stared at it, her heart heavy. "This is your last," she whispered. "Why give it to me?" He shrugged, looking at the broken skyline of the ruins. You need it more than I do. Her throat tightened. She wanted to argue, to refuse, but hunger clawed her stomach again. She opened the packet, slowly this time, and took a bite. The taste filled her mouth, and for a moment the world seemed less cruel. As she ate, she kept her eyes on him. He sat cross-legged now, resting his arms on his knees. His face was scarred, his uniform torn. He was tired, perhaps more tired than she was. Yet he still guarded her like a soldier on duty. Something inside her shifted. For the first time since her husband's death, she felt not only alive but seen. The night deepened around them. The sky turned dark purple, stars scattered like shards of broken glass. Fires smoldered in the distance, the last memory of battles long past. Somewhere far away, the cry of another beast carried on the wind. Fear prickled at her skin. They will come again, she whispered. The human nodded. Yes, but not tonight. Tonight we rest. The word felt strange to her. She had not rested in so long. Her nights had been filled with fear, her days with hunger. Now, with this stranger beside her, she felt her eyelids grow heavy. She fought the sleep. She did not trust it. She feared that if she closed her eyes, he would vanish and she would wake alone again. But the human's presence was steady, solid. He sat like a wall of iron, his rifle close, his ears sharp to every sound. She realized then that he was watching over her, not because he had to, but because he chose to. Her heart pounded softly in her chest. Hope. It was a small word, but it returned to her like a spark in ashes. She let it sit there, fragile but real. Her stomach no longer screamed, her lips no longer cracked from thirst. Her body was weak, yes, but her spirit had taken one small step away from the grave. She looked at the human one last time before her eyes closed. His head was tilted, his gaze still on the dark horizon. A protector, a stranger who had given her more than food. He had given her reason. And in that moment the widow thought, perhaps I am not forgotten after all. The ruins were dark now. The sun had fallen behind the broken skyline, leaving only the cold shine of the moon. Cracks in the walls glowed faintly as night insects crawled, their wings whispering against stone. Smoke from distant fires curled in the air, carrying the bitter smell of ash and death. The widow sat close to the human, her body weak, her mind restless. She had eaten, she had drunk, but still her heart would not calm. Shadows stretched long across the rubble, and every shadow looked like a predator waiting. The human had built a small fire between two slabs of broken wall. Its orange glow lit his face, carving hard lines into his features. He kept his weapon near, one hand resting on it even as he watched the flames. His eyes never fully relaxed. The widow whispered, "They will smell the fire." He nodded. Yes, she looked at him, confused. Then why make it? The human glanced at her, his expression unreadable. Because fear kills faster than hunger. Fire pushes it back, his words struck her. She realized he was not only fighting beasts outside, but also the beast inside her, fear itself. For a short while, the crackle of the flames filled the silence. The warmth touched her skin, softening the chill that had lived in her bones for too long. Her eyelids grew heavy, but every distant sound snapped them open again. Then it came. The growl, low, deep, crawling through the night air like a warning. The widow's body stiffened. Her breath caught. Her eyes darted to the shadows. The human already knew. He had heard it before she did. His hand closed around his rifle, lifting it slowly, carefully, as his eyes scanned the darkness. Another growl, closer, then another from the other side. The widow whispered, trembling. They surround us. The human's reply was steady, calm. Stay low. Do not move unless I tell you. Her heart thundered in her chest. She pressed her back against the cold stone, clutching the empty food packet like a charm, though she knew it could save no one. The night erupted with sound, snarls, scraping claws, the shuffle of many feet. Pairs of glowing eyes appeared in the ruins, circling the firelight. The beast had returned. Bigger this time, bolder, hungry. The widow's hand shook violently. She whispered, "You will die because of me." The human never looked at her. His gaze stayed locked on the eyes in the dark. His voice was quiet, hard as steel. "Then I will die standing." The words silenced her. The first beast lunged from the shadows. The human fired. The shot cracked like thunder and the creature fell whining. Another rushed in from the side. He spun, fired again, sending it crashing into rubble. The firelight flickered wildly with every shot, shadows jumping like demons on the walls, but the beasts were many. Too many. They circled tighter, teeth flashing, growls louder, filling the air with dread. The widow's throat ached as she watched. She wanted to run, but her legs would not move. She wanted to scream, but no sound came. The largest of the pack stepped forward. Its body was twice the size of the others, its scales shining in the firelight, its fangs dripping with saliva. It did not attack yet. It only watched, waiting for the human to weaken. The human's weapon clicked empty. Silence followed, sharp and terrifying. The widow gasped, panic flooding her veins. No more bullets? The soldier dropped the rifle to his side and pulled his blade. His stance did not falter. His eyes burned with the same fire as the flames. Then we fight another way. The beasts roared, rushing forward. The human met them head-on, swinging his blade, striking with brutal force. The widow saw sparks fly as metal clashed against teeth. One beast leapt too close, its claw cut across his arm. Blood spilled, dark against the firelight. The widow screamed, but he did not fall. He pushed forward, driving his blade deep, kicking the body aside. For a moment the fire roared louder, the heat stronger, and the widow felt something stir inside her chest. Not fear, not despair, but a fierce spark of defiance. Her hand searched the ground, finding a heavy stone. She gripped it tight. She was weak, but she would not sit and wait to be eaten, not while this human fought for her. The beasts circled again, growling, their leader still waiting, its yellow eyes fixed on the man and the woman beside the fire. The widow raised the stone with trembling arms, whispering to herself, "If I must die tonight, I will not die helpless." And in the ruins, as the pack closed in once more, the battle for survival was only beginning. The fire burned low, its glow flickering across broken stone. Around them, the beasts had finally retreated, dragging away their dead, growls fading into the night. But silence did not bring peace. The widow's hand still shook, the stone she had clutched lying useless by her side. The human sat near the fire, his blade resting across his knees. Blood streaked his arm where claws had cut him, but he wrapped the wound with steady hands as if pain were nothing new. His face was calm, though shadows under his eyes told a different story. The widow stared at him, her heart heavy with questions. Why had he risked everything for her? Why had he not left her to the beasts? He was human. She was alien. They had no bond, no shared past. Yet he had stood bleeding to protect her life. Her lips parted. "Why?" she whispered. Her voice was hoarse, barely louder than the fire's crackle. He glanced at her, silent for a moment. Then he said, "Because someone has to." The words stung. They were simple but sharp, like a blade cutting through the years of cruelty she had endured. No one else had thought that. Not her kin, not her neighbors, not even her leaders. When her husband died in the war, they had looked at her as if she were a broken tool, useless, worthless, a mouth that should be silent. The memory burned. Her eyes blurred with tears she did not want to shed. The human noticed. He tilted his head. "Tell me," he said quietly. "What happened to you?" At first she wanted to stay silent. Her story was ugly, heavy with shame. She thought, why burden him with it? But his gaze was steady, not forcing, just waiting. And something in her chest cracked open. "My husband," she whispered, voice trembling. "He died in the war. He fought bravely. They called him a hero. But when he was gone, I was nothing." She took a breath, sharp and shaky. The words poured out raw and bitter. "Widows are cursed in my tribe. A woman without a man is seen as weak, useless. They stopped giving me food. They told me I should lie down and let the flies take me. They pushed me out like garbage." Her voice broke. She lowered her head, hair falling over her face. I begged. I begged them to let me stay. I begged for crumbs. But they turned their backs. Even the ones who once shared meals with me. They said I was dead already." Silence followed. The fire cracked, a single spark flying upward. She felt shame press down on her chest. She had said too much. Surely now the human would see her as pathetic. But then she heard him breathe out, long and heavy. "Your people are cruel." His voice was low, full of anger, but not at her. At them, she lifted her eyes slowly. His jaw was clenched, his fists tight. He stared into the fire as if he could burn the memory of her tormentors. "I lost people too," he said after a pause. "Brothers in battle. Friends I would have died for. And when they were gone, the world kept moving. No one cared but me. I carried their names alone." The widow's lips parted. She had expected judgment, pity, maybe disgust, but instead she found kinship. Different lives, different worlds, yet the same pain. For the first time, she felt less alone. The night wind howled through the broken ruins, carrying the sound of distant patrols, soldiers marching, their boots heavy against the stone. Her body tensed. "They will find us," she whispered, fear returning. The human's eyes narrowed. He had heard it too. He slid his blade back into its sheath and picked up his rifle, though its magazine was nearly empty. He turned to her. "Then we move. You can walk?" Her body trembled, weak as glass. Yet she forced herself to nod. The human rose, his silhouette tall against the firelight. He extended his hand to her, steady and strong. She hesitated, then placed her frail hand in his. For the first time since her world had crumbled, she stood not by herself but beside someone who refused to leave her behind. The fire hissed as the wind swept through. Darkness thickened, danger closing in from every side. But this time the widow was not just a burden. She was part of a fragile, unspoken bond, and that bond would be tested before the night was over. The fire had burned down to glowing embers. Smoke drifted upward, thin and pale, vanishing into the cold night. The widow leaned on the wall, her body shaking with weakness, but her ears caught the sound that made her blood run cold. Marching boots. The human heard them too. His head lifted, eyes sharp. The rhythm of the boots was steady, organized. Not beasts, soldiers. She froze, fear pressing her chest. Her people's patrols showed no mercy. If they found her with a human, they would kill her without hesitation, and him too. The soldier stood, slipping his pack over his shoulder. His voice was low but firm. "We move now." Her legs trembled as she tried to rise. Her knees buckled and she nearly fell. She looked up at him, ashamed. I cannot." He crouched, lowering himself in front of her. "Then you will ride." Before she could protest, he lifted her onto his back. Her thin arms wrapped around his shoulders. His strength startled her, though his body was scarred and weary. He carried her as if she weighed nothing more than a shadow. The boots drew closer. Echoes bounced off broken walls, growing louder. The widow's heart raced. She whispered, "Leave me. If they catch you, you'll die." But the human's answer was iron. "Not leaving you." He moved through the ruins, steps silent, weaving between rubble. His eyes darted, measuring every corner, every shadow. He was no stranger to this kind of danger. He walked like a man who had spent his life slipping through death's grip. The widow pressed her face against his shoulder. His scent was dust, sweat, and metal, but it was the scent of life, of someone who fought to exist. The sound of voices drifted closer, sharp, barking orders. The patrol. The human pressed himself against a crumbled wall, crouching low. He waited motionless, his breath steady. The widow barely dared to breathe. She could hear her people's voices, speaking the language she had once trusted, now only feared. Search the ruins. No stragglers. Torchlight swept across the rubble, glowing beams dancing dangerously close. The widow's stomach clenched. If the light touched them, it was over. The soldier did not flinch. His hand held her arm steady as if to say, "Trust me." The torches passed, shadows sliding away. The boots moved on. For a moment it seemed they were safe. Then, a stone shifted under his boot. The sound echoed small but sharp. The voices stopped. Over there. Torches turned. Boots thundered. The patrol was coming. The soldier's body tensed. He bolted into the ruins, carrying her on his back. The widow clung to him, her weak body bouncing with every step. Arrows hissed past them, striking stone. Sparks flew. Faster. Voices shouted behind. The soldier turned a corner, ducked through a collapsed archway, his breath heavy but controlled. He did not slow, not even when a blast of energy scorched the wall beside them, showering them with dust. The widow wanted to scream, but she bit her lip. She would not distract him. She held tighter, whispering prayers into his back. They burst into an open courtyard, moonlight spilling over broken statues and cracked pillars. The patrol thundered behind, their torches glowing like fiery eyes. The soldier's boots pounded the stone. His lungs burned, but his pace never faltered. He carried her as if her life weighed more than his own. At the far side of the courtyard, rubble blocked the way. A dead end. The widow's heart stopped. "No, we are trapped." But the human's eyes locked on a narrow gap between fallen stones. Too small for two, maybe big enough for one. He dropped to his knees, sliding her down from his back. His voice was urgent but steady. Crawl through. I'll cover you. She shook her head violently. No! If you stay, they'll kill you. His gaze burned into hers. If you don't go, they'll kill us both. Trust me. Tears stung her eyes. She wanted to refuse to cling to him, but the fire in his voice cut through her fear. She dropped to the ground and crawled toward the gap, her body scraping against the stone. Behind her, the human turned to face the oncoming patrol. He lifted his rifle, nearly empty, but enough to buy her time. The widow looked back, her heart breaking. She saw him framed in the moonlight, weapon ready, a lone figure standing against the darkness. Then she slipped through the gap, vanishing into the shadows beyond. The sound of gunfire thundered behind her. Shouts, screams, echoes of battle in the ruins, and as she crawled into the unknown, one thought burned in her chest. He risked everything for me. I cannot let it be for nothing. The night stretched on like an endless shadow. The widow crawled through the narrow gap, stones scraping her skin, dust filling her throat. Behind her, the ruins shook with noise, gunfire, shouting, the thunder of boots. She wanted to turn back, to see if the human still stood, but fear pushed her forward. At last, she tumbled out onto the other side. The air was colder here, fresher, touched by the open plains beyond the ruins. For a heartbeat, silence surrounded her. No torches, no voices, only the whisper of wind through grass, but her heart would not calm. Her mind screamed, he is still there, alone. She pressed her body against the wall, waiting, praying. The minutes stretched, heavy and cruel. Then footsteps, her breath caught. Was it soldiers? Had they found her? A figure staggered through the gap, shoulders broad, face smeared with dust and blood. The human, he carried no torch, no trophies. Only his rifle nearly broken and the weight of survival. His chest rose and fell like a storm, his breath ragged. Yet his eyes, when they found her, were steady. Relief slammed into her chest so strong she almost wept. She whispered his name, though she did not know it. To her, he was simply the human, her savior.